Hello and welcome to Pro Station Racer. My name is Mitchell Morgan and welcome to this next video in my series of Diary of a Desperate Driver videos. This one is a little bit mean because the subject car isn't really that desperate. I left the door open, he threw it up the inside. It is a classic push to pass move, but it is a move that is classed as dirty in the upper rankings. So you can get away with this at the lower rankings, such as the B ranking that I am in. But once you step up into the A and the A plus rankings, you will not get away with this. So I do class it as a dirty race, and it does cost me a race win. It also gets inside my head, which invokes another error of my own. But it starts badly anyway, because as you were seeing in this little lead up, I had forgotten that you have to set your car up for every single one of these races. Now I have done a number of laps behind the ghost car to get my qualifying lap time down, which has enabled me to qualify in second place. But this is the first race that I have run in the dailies this week, and I wasn't sure what the driving standards were going to be in this one, whether it was going to be clean, whether it was going to be dirty. So this really was a case of just feeling my way through this first race. So this one is more about educating people on a push to pass move. Again, something that you can get away with in the lower rankings if that's your style of driving. I don't tend to drive that way. I try to keep it more clean, but it's a good lesson because you will not get away with this in the upper rankings, as I have found to my cost over the last few months. So with that, let's get into the video and see what this race is like. I'm going to follow it from the subject car's point of view throughout the race. Let's go. Okay, so here we are in the race. I'm lining up in second place behind the Porsche in front. I've got the follow cam on so we can see what's going on. I'm just going to drop back to the subject car. This is the car that I'm going to have the tangle with, and I'm just going to watch the whole of the race from this car's point of view, just so that we can see what the lead up is and their style of driving throughout the race. I am being a little bit mean in this one by calling this one the Diary of a Desperate Driver, purely because, as you're going to see, he's not that bad, but there are one or two instances where he does try it on to get through to that first place, and in my mind wins the race not necessarily cleanly. So this has joined my list of Diary of a Desperate Driver races for that particular reason, and obviously because he does actually cause me to effectively lose a race win. And again, I might be a little bit out of order in saying that, because I do make an issue of my own, I make a mistake of my own towards the end of the race. So as we're opening up, you can see that everything is all pretty settled at the moment. This car is pushing, it is sort of jittering around left and right a bit, so I'm wondering whether this is a controller racer rather than a wheel racer, but he's got a nice move done on the number 6 car. I have deliberately removed all of the names from this race because one of the things I don't want to do in this series of videos is showcase people and make them famous, a little bit like the old Kimmy videos. You can see that I have dropped back into 4th position at the moment. The second and third place cars both making a move on me very, very early on in the race. Now again, I'll remind you that this is the first time that I've run this race this week, so I was being a little bit cautious, especially through the first lap, and my thinking was just keep it clean and tidy, just get the first lap done. As a number of the people in my live stream were saying to me, almost got side by side with the grey Porsche through that one, but backed out just to make sure that we keep it clean. The grey Porsche goes over to the right hand side. Not quite sure why cars are diving over there, if I'm perfectly honest. And you can see that we are actually catching up with the Porsche as we get into the braking zone. And then we get a bit of a bump with the Porsche behind. I'm just going to drop back to me there. So the car that is a subject really makes a dive on the inside, has a clash with the grey Porsche and pushes him off. So that is the first of the incidents that people on my live stream have pointed out, and that grey Porsche is still running, but still a fair bit back from the car that caused the incident. In my mind, the Porsche up front, because I think he should have just held back and just let that particular incident play out. But again, why did the grey Porsche go over to the right hand side up the start finish straight? I really don't know, and I think that that contributed to the incident as well. So I'm not going to put it all on the car in front of me at the moment. And also, could I have done anything to have made that incident a lot less than it was? So we're now into lap number 2, halfway around as we're approaching Spoon Curve, one of the curves that has been giving me a lot of grief whilst I've been chasing the ghost car, and also which causes a few people grief in this race. So you can see there that the Peugeot has gone off. He joins really badly, gets into the side of our subject Porsche in front. He does go around, which then promotes me up into 3rd place. So that was a gifted place there, and I was hoping that there was going to be a few more of those through this race to try and get up through the order a little bit more. But the 1st place driver really is on it through this race. He does have an incident at the end, which is a real shame, because he drives really well. But again, you can see that the Porsche that is the subject of this video is taking this very strange line down the right hand side. Is that trying to shorten the straight? Is that trying to defend? I'm not quite sure. I am quite a fair way back from the car in front at the moment, so no real need, I think, to defend that heavily. The other thing is I am watching behind me, because we've got another Porsche, this one with Fanatec splattered across the back of it, that is chasing down as well. And this was a very quick driver in my mind. He closed down this gap and continued to close it. And you'll see when we get into the incident that this car makes really good opportunity of it. And yeah, all kudos to this guy. I think he drove really well. So just riding on board with him at the moment, because these 3 cars that we're looking at now, the Porsche that we are riding on board with, myself in the BMW, and the red, white and black Porsche up front, are all going to be subject to the issue that is going to come up in the last lap. Now this all comes about because of an incident that the Porsche in front of me has in Spoon Curve. At the moment he goes really deep, gets onto the outside of the corner, which gives me the opportunity to come through. He does rejoin, getting a bit onto the grass there, and that also enables the 4th place racer to close up quite a lot on the car that is our desperate driver car. I really shouldn't be saying that, because he's not that desperate. You can see that this is a relatively clean race, to be quite honest. This car just taking a little look up the inside, thinks better of it and just backs out of it. Just a little bit cleaner and tidier and smoother, the car that we're racing on. So I'm suspecting that this is a wheel racer and the car in front is on a controller, just because it does seem to move a little bit erratically, particularly through the corners. As we go into the first corner, I've left my braking really deep to try and just build a little bit of a gap to the 2 cars behind. I was very conscious that they had closed up. Both of them are in slipstream area now, so the car in the middle here is getting a slipstream off of me, and this car is getting a slipstream off of the car in front. You can see that he's pushing really hard through the S's there, getting right onto the back of the subject car. Just backing out ever so slightly for the moment to give the subject car some room. As we come down into this corner, this is one where I was constantly getting it wrong, but I managed to do okay through there on this occasion. Watching in my rear view mirror and also watching for the braking zone to get the turn done as cleanly as possible. This hairpin is an area where people do dive bomb from time to time, but no dive bombing going on. This is all very, very clean at the moment. And again, I will apologise for labelling this one as a diary of a desperate driver, because the guy in front is driving a good race, really, all said and done. Could it have just been a last lap hot-headed incident? I think it possibly was. Was it a calculated incident? Well, we'll have a look at it in a moment, and I think that it almost definitely was. I think it was planned, and I'm not quite sure what I could have done about it. But as we come through here to come up to the chicane for the penultimate time, he takes a look up the inside, backs out of that because that move was not on. Now he's thinking, what am I going to do about Mitchell Morgan ahead of me? He's got a good toe this time. He's not going over to the right. As we go down this straight, you'll see here that if I just come back ever so slightly, you'll see that we get very, very close into the chicane. I'm not quite sure if there was a touch there, but as we go down this start-finish straight, you're going to see that there's a little bit of a bump. I don't think it's a bump draft. I think it's more of a bump to say, there it is, I'm here, I'm going to do you, watch out. He goes for the inside, really, really late braking, pushes me out wide. That lets this car that we're riding on board with through as well. He takes advantage, and unfortunately I'm then promoted down to 4th place. In my mind, that is not a clean pass. Now I'm just going to come back, and what we'll do is we'll just step through this one a little bit just to analyse that a little bit more, and then I'll play out the rest of the video. So just jumping forward to him, you can see as we go into the corner, my thinking here is he's already bumped me, he's already lining up for a pass, he's got the benefit of slipstream. So do I go to the right and defend, or do I hold my normal racing line? I decide to hold my normal racing line because at this point the Porsche is dive bombing. He's going into the vortex of doom area, which is always going to close out. And at this point, he is not really alongside me, although he is carrying quite a bit of speed. And as we just go forward there, you can see now that that area is closing. I am leaving room on the inside because I know he's going to dive bomb me. If I move over and close the door, he's either going to punt me into the corner, in which case I'm probably going to wind up in the gravel and lose lots of places, or I'm just going to let him up the inside. He might go a little bit deep, and then I can switch underneath him and see if I can get that move done. As far as the brakes are concerned, at the moment we are both full hard on the brakes, and I am obviously going for the corner at this precise moment in time. But as we go forwards, you can see now that the subject car is not really on the curb. I'm having to drift out to the right a little bit as I am being pushed. At this stage, he is still full on the brakes, potentially trying to make the corner. But now he's drifting off of the corner, still on the brakes at the moment. But as we get more into the mid part of the corner, I'm still being lent on. And now he's coming off the brakes. If this was not a push to pass calculated move, which it might not be, but I think it is, he should be harder on the brakes and getting more across into the corner. He has still got some right steering input in there, but as we just go forward a few more frames, you can see that he's now coming off of the brakes, and also that steering input, it could be further over. He's now almost completely off of the brakes midway through the corner. He's actually going for his normal line. He's now aiming towards the exit curb, so that red and white curb that is in front of us here. So if we just come forward a little bit more, you can see he's still drifting over, and he's full off the brakes now, fully alongside, and still continuing to push me over to the point where I actually get run out pretty much onto the grass, or that's this little green strip. He is full off the brakes now. And you can see now that I am on the brakes because I'm thinking, hang on a minute, there's no way I'm going to make this corner. He's pushing me over and I'm going to be on the green stuff. I have broken contact with him at this point, but essentially it really is game over. And I'm thinking, let's brake hard. So you can see here that I'm actually off the brakes now because I'm getting straightened up to go down this curb. He's fully off the brakes as well. And as we go into the corner, what I'm going to try and do is to get the switch behind. So I'm thinking about getting onto the back of the Porsche. Alas, unfortunately, we've got this other car that is joining the party, and he is going to pick up and fill the gap. Now again, is he in the vortex of doom? Possibly, because that gap is always going to close. We do have a little bit of a hit, but I've got nothing against this guy because he is on the brakes. He is turning. He's taking advantage of that corner and the fact that it is opened and the issue that I've got into. So I do get pushed a little bit wide. He goes through, gets right into the back of the Desperate Driver car. And then obviously what I then have to do is just settle in behind these two cars. I'm just trying to give the second of the Porsches enough room on the inside. We possibly had a little bit of a touch there, which is me just squeezing a little bit too much. But as we exit out of the corner, we're all good. He just gets a little bit of a nudge, I think, from me as I'm trying to straighten up, which I do apologise for. And from there, we are back to running, and I had to settle for what's now 4th place. Now we get the overtaking prohibited flag comes up because the first place car has crashed all on his own, which is a real shame. Let's just go back and have a look and see what happened to that car. So he comes around to go into the S's. He's already a country mile ahead of everybody else, running really, really nicely through here. Second gear, and he just gets a wheel on the grass and goes round. Reverses it off onto the grass and into the gravel. And then we're going to come through, which was a real shame to take that place. He then joins behind me, and then we get another car overtakes him using the Ghost, and he goes round again. So a real shame there. From my point of view though, now that push to pass has really upset me. It's got inside my head. I'm chasing down as quick as we can, and I'm trying to close up on the two cars in front while they're fighting. And this is where I make my schoolboy error, really, really stupid. I'm closing and closing and closing, and then under braking, I brake a little bit too late. I put it onto the gravel. That lets the car behind go through. I managed to gather it up and then get it back on the track without losing another place, which was fortunate. So now we're lying in 4th position. But that was my big mistake that cost me a podium. Really annoyed with myself. And now I'm pushing harder and harder and harder just to try and see if there's any opportunity to close up on the 3rd place. The 3rd place is quite a fair way down the road, so it's unlikely to happen. But I'm still of the mindset that those guys up front in 1 and 2 are really fighting each other, and we know that they can be a little bit aggressive, shall we say. I'm not going to say that they're going to be dirty, but they can be a little bit aggressive, and there could have been an incident into the last chicane. Unfortunately there wasn't. It was all very, very clean, and we came across the line with, unfortunately, the car that was the... Actually, let me just go back a second. Yes, if we see here, I'm just going to come back. So the Fanatec car here actually does a push to pass move into the hairpin. So he's actually done what the Porsche we're riding on board with did to me into that other corner. So again, this is another classic example of when people see you do a move like that, they're going to do the same move on you. So that was really, really interesting to see how the winner of this race got through, and well, that makes me feel a little bit better. Kudos to the first place runner now for pulling that move on our desperate driver. Let's just go back to that car to finish out the race. So again, it's all fairly split out here. So there was an incident. It wasn't enough to push the desperate driver off, and both of these two cars then come across the line to finish this race first and second. The third place runner that unfortunately I let through and gifted that place by my incident comes across the line, and then I came across in fourth place. So my error aside, I would be really, really interested in your thoughts on the push to pass move that the second place car did on me. Please leave your comments below and let me know what your thoughts are. I've learnt a few lessons from this one. It's been an interesting push to pass video to share with you. I hope that you found it useful. If you have, please hit the thumbs up, and I look forward to seeing you on another video coming very, very soon. For now, take care. Bye bye.